Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Eat Meat and Question Everything. Today, we are joined with Pim Jansen. Thank you so much for being with us today, Pim.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, we are super excited and we're just going to get into it. Can you just tell us, you're very, very educated. Tell us a little bit about your educational background and kind of how you've evolved into the space that you're in right now.
Okay, so I have a couple of degrees. I have a master's degree in nutrition and I have a bachelor's degree in biomedical science, but I'm not working with any of that. I'm actually working as a coach and I'm double certified life coach. So I've always been interested in diet from a very young age. I I don't know if I should say this, but when I think I was about 7 years old, I got this book that just had like lists of foods and how many calories they had in them. And my brain was like, oh, this is really interesting. So if I have to eat 2000 calories or 1500 calories or whatever I imagined that I needed at the time, then I can eat all the sweets in the world and still fulfill all my needs. So that was like my childish brain, nutritionist brain, I guess, that just kind of got into this. So I've always been interested in nutrition, and then I became a personal trainer and did a diet advisor certification. So I was doing all of those things. I noticed that it didn't really work the way that it was supposed to work. So that's when I got into nutrition. And meanwhile, I was just doing, all the things that we were told were good for us, as in counting the macros, doing, 60% carbs, 30% or 25% protein, 15% of fat. And of those 15%, there should be 5% of each, saturated, monounsaturated or polyunsaturated. So I was very, by the book, this is how it works, believing everything that I was taught until there was one girl in my nutrition class. She was also the only one who was overweight, and she was into, Atkins. Like, that's interesting. How can you lose fat when you're eating a lot of fat? But it worked for her. So I got really curious, and that's actually how I started trying it out myself. And it wasn't until just after I actually graduated that I started doing research in this area. And that's when I actually changed and started eating keto, like on and off, because I was a sugar addict. So I didn't really work, but like I imagined that I was eating keto and I was doing it most of the time and then keep falling off and coming back on and etc. So that's pretty much how it started.
Awesome. I'm curious, like what do you eat right now? If you said like kind of keto, like what does if it's a label, if it's keto carnivore, and like what a typical day of eating looks like for you?
Oh, so I would say I have two typical days of eating. So I probably 4 or 5 days of the week, I'm pretty much carnivore, zero carb. And the other couple of days, I might have some blueberries, or occasionally I have rice, which I don't even like. That's my medicine, because when I go zero carb for too long, I get migraines and headaches that the only way that I can get rid of them is by eating about 30 grams of carbs with rice or some starch. I think I would have to eat many blueberries to help with that. So I haven't even tried that, to be honest. So I wake up in the morning. Sometimes I have breakfast, sometimes I don't. Usually my breakfast is about 50 grams of butter, 4 eggs mixed in with coffee. So I'm having egg coffee and I'm drinking that over a couple of hours. And then I don't eat until I'm hungry. And that could be any time between lunchtime and probably 6 p.m. So because I'm working from home, I'm kind of fortunate that I can eat when I'm actually hungry. So I'm trying to just listen to my body. And usually that's steak with maybe garlic butter or some pesto or something like that. Very, very simple. I'm not complicating things. I'm not making a lot of, funny carnivore dishes or whatever. And on other days, it looks very similar, but then I might have some Greek yogurt with some blueberries or something.
Okay, that's interesting that you say you feel better with some carbs because I feel like a lot of people go to carnivore because they have migraines, but you're saying that
Hmm.
kind of gives you the like, do you know why that happens or what's going on with that?
I I have tried to figure that out for over a year. So I did a zero carb experiment in January last year. So I did that for 3 months, and the last 6 weeks I have had headaches and migraines like every day, and I could not get rid of it, whatever I was doing. It took me almost 2 months to get back to normal. So now I'm like, I don't want to go through that experiment again. I tried it with a higher fat, going in and eating 80% fat, because everyone says, oh, you should just eat more fat. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this experiment. I think I lasted 11, 12 days, and then it started coming back again. And it's a very specific headache. I noticed the difference between that headache and, let's say, a sinus headache or something else. So I know when the carbs are going to help, and if it's a sinus headache, it's not going to help. So I think it depends on what the cause is. But I'm wondering if it could be, I don't know, I'm just guessing, and I'm not even sure it's a good guess, but maybe if it's a change in bacteria flora and certain species are dying off or something like that, maybe they just, you know, release a lot of toxins and I'm not able to clear that, and then I get the headaches. So by feeding the bacteria carbs, maybe that's what's happening. I don't really know. I'm just guessing at this point because I haven't been able to figure out. I did an experiment where I was measuring my ketones and my blood sugar every day, and I thought I saw when my blood sugar went under 72, 70, that's when I usually got the headache. But it didn't always help just raising the blood sugar. I just I needed a certain amount of carbs as well. And it didn't happen every time my blood sugar went low. So it doesn't seem to be the thing either. I'm a bit at a loss, but I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. Devin, did you want to go into some of the questions specifically about like carb and sugar addiction, or where's your head at?
Yeah. Yeah, so you talk a lot about food addiction on your page, on your YouTube, and I'm really interested because there's a lot of denial from the nutrition community that there is even such a thing as food addiction. And now it's kind of taken the role of you're addicted to eating, you're just addicted to the act of eating. So can you talk about why do you think food addiction is real? Because we know that food addiction is real, carb addiction, sugar addiction is real. And how do you approach that with the people that you're working with?
Okay, so food addiction, yes, it's real if we are, say, working on under the hypothesis that addictions are real. I think addictions is just actually a construct that we have made up for a behavior which is a symptom of something. And I think the symptom is that we're using a completely normal part of our brain pathways, which are supposed to get us to eat the foods or do things that makes us feel good in some way. So that could be food or anything else that you can be addicted to. It will just release a lot of like dopamine and other neurotransmitters that will make you feel really good when you're doing it. So by eating processed foods, you get an abnormal dopamine response, which is just way over the top. And what happens is that when you have that huge response, your brain doesn't like it because it's not meant to be that high. That's not natural. So it's going to start downregulate the dopamine receptors. So every time you're eating it, you feel that, the gratifications from it and you feel good doing it, but you're never going to feel as good as you did the first time. So this is when we're talking about building up tolerance to anything. So you need to eat more and more because you're chasing the high or the feeling of feeling as good as you did the first time. And you're going to just keep downregulate until you're just going to have to keep eating a lot of carbs until you feel normal. It's not even going to feel good anymore at some point. You just need it to feel normal. Otherwise, you feel depressed because now you have so few receptors that you're going to feel like shit because there is no joy anymore. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like, there is no joy anymore. The only joy I have in life is food. And that's because you don't have the receptors to feel that joy, because everything else will give you a normal response, which it won't really have an effect anymore. So that's kind of what addiction is. And the same thing is happening, whether that is food of any kind, whether that's carbs or usually carbs are involved in some way, a combination of carbs and fat. I don't think, I mean, sometimes some cheeky monkey will come on my channel and say, I'm addicted to steak, but I don't actually think they have an addiction to steak. I think that's different, that you just like it a lot. And it just makes you feel good. But you mentioned another thing as well, which was pretty much an addiction to eating. So some people might have an addiction to like just to overeat, and they will have the addiction will be to just fill themselves, and it's not related to a particular food. And that's the same thing. That feeling of feeling full will just make you feel good, and it helps you avoid, usually avoids feeling a negative emotion of some kind. And for a lot of people that do overeating, there might also be some trauma that they're dealing with that they're trying to escape from. So that's just like even more in that camp of avoiding feeling something, and they just want to get away from that. And that's not really my field. I do have some clients with that have had trauma in their lives, but all of them have actually been getting help before from a psychologist or a psychiatrist or etc. So they have already had professional help so that they can actually move forward. So the way that we're doing this is just like we're rewiring the brain, because this is just, it is a learned behavior to react this way. And it is a learned behavior that we don't need anyone to teach us how to do that, because it's built in already. We already have all the mechanisms for getting this to happen. So when you eat something that feels nice, you will get the reward, and that will also supercharge your brain to, it literally goes into hyper learning space. It will learn everything that happens right then very quickly, because it wants you to remember where you found the food, how rewarding it was, where we can find it again, because this is a survival mechanism. So we just learn this behavior very quickly, and then we're hooked from the first or the second time we're doing it. So we just need to go in and like redirect that habit loop that we have. So when we see the trigger, we will have thoughts about it, and then we will feel that craving. And rather than eating as a response, we want to go and do nothing, is what I teach my clients. Just embrace feeling the negative emotion, because if you can do that, there's no reason for you to eat anymore. And that it is as simple as that.
You know what? Hearing that made me feel so uncomfortable. Like, so you want us to like sit in our feelings and just feel, which I feel like is a great idea. But that just made me feel like, oh my gosh, because I actually like definitely have had a past of sugar addiction. And I feel like eating carnivore has been great because I don't have those battles anymore. It's just off the table. But
Yeah.
I've been aware that heavy cream brings back those feelings for me. And so I'm back off the dairy, but I did have some this weekend. And so I had a creamy coffee yesterday, and I felt like I was battling myself all day. Like the urge to go have more was
Yeah.
so strong. And so I did a few times, but then late at night, we were sitting in bed, and I'm like telling my husband, I'm like, I really want to go get some cheese. Like I'm not even really technically hungry, but it was hard to not go out into the kitchen and
Yeah.
go get some cheese. It's like the urge is so strong. So I guess I kind of sat there with my feelings, but it's not comfortable at all. And when I don't, it's just so weird how what your brain's like doing to tell you, like, go get it, like, go have it. You'll be so happy when you have it. And it's just wild that freaking cream, do that.
Freaking cream. Yeah, and it can happen with any food. I mean, I had it with salami for a while. I just got into the habit of having salami in the evening, and I was like, hold on. I can't even have an evening without salami because I need it. So I had to cut it up for a while and just become aware of what was happening. So it can happen with any food. We just have these addictive pathways, and they can literally hook on to anything that is a bit hyper palatable. That's why I say like just plain steak is probably not going to happen for anyone because it's not hyper palatable, but anything with taste. And dairy has casein in it, which can turn into casomorphin. So that's kind of going on the side of being quite addictive in itself. But it can happen with anything. I've had people with sweetener addiction. So they fully keto, they don't have problems staying away from the sugar anymore, but cutting out the sweet taste is now the security blanket or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I feel that 100%.
I
Devin,
think we're all
you're
good.
having some technical issues over there, huh? You keep freezing.
Yeah, I know. I can tell I'm having some computer technical difficulties. I'm trying to shift. It's nothing I do works. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that is so interesting because
Oh no.
Yeah, you cut out.
I'm in therapy. It's working. Is it working?
Yeah, try again.
Yeah.
I'm in therapy right now, and my therapist tells me, like, when you're feeling that negative emotion, I don't want you to do anything about it. You sit there
Yes.
in your feelings, don't distract yourself, don't do something, don't turn on the TV, don't open the book, just sit there and think about it. And he's like, that is the only way that you can truly overcome these negative emotions. And of course, like, that is so counterintuitive to what we're taught. It's like when you're feeling negativity or you're feeling this really difficult emotion, your natural reaction is to do something to completely deviate from that thought. So it's kind of funny to think of like a food approach, like, no, you sit there in that discomfort because that is so not what we are taught. Like, even in a societal approach, you know what I mean? As starting off as kids, it's like, oh, well, go do something else. And it's just, I never thought about doing that with like a food temptation or like addiction either.
I love your therapist. I love that he
Oh,
told you that, because that's kind of the key to everything, to whether it's food addiction or anything else like procrastination, like everything that you achieve in life that you want to achieve, you're going to have to go through negative emotions. And people who cannot stand having negative emotions, they're never going to achieve their dreams and do things that, extraordinary people do, because the only difference is that they have actually overcome that and they just allow themselves to feel the negative emotions and they're just pushing through anyway. So I'm so glad that he told you that. It makes me really happy to hear about a professional that recommends doing that.
it's a
If you can
game.
do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a game changer, and it's very, very difficult because,
Yeah.
like, and I can assume I've never really suffered from food addiction, but almost everyone we talk to has at some point. But I think it's like to allow yourself to release that emotion and just release like that negativity, because most of the time you end up feeling something very, very intense that it's almost like amplified, like your craving to something is amplified because you're not satisfying it. It makes you
Yeah.
just so uncozy, and you're like, oh, you're like cringing and you're releasing these intense emotions. So that's like, I think that applies to anything, even food addiction. It's just so crazy that we're just taught not to do that, but sometimes it's beneficial to just push through. um the other thing that I have heard you talk about, I watched a video with you a couple months. I think you had done a dual interview with Bart. You talked a little bit about oxalates. I don't know, do you have an oxalate intolerance, and how do you deal with that? Because that's the space where I came from, kidney problems because of an oxalate intolerance. And I didn't actually know that until I was 6 months into my carnivore journey, where I kind of had like a light bulb moment. So can you talk about your oxalate issue, what you've noticed? Because I know you've talked about it a little bit before.
Yeah, I'm probably going to disappoint you now and tell you that I don't think I have an oxalate problem at all. What I was doing, so I was taking, since I was about, excuse me, since I was about 20, I think, I've had sinus problems that have just got worse over time. So I was taking borax as a way of trying to address that, because I think it's a fungal issue. And what I thought was oxalate dumping, I think is actually a host reaction to the borax, because it got got worse and worse over time. And then I got all these rashes and they just didn't stop itching and they got worse. And I thought, hang on, what's actually happening? Why would I start dumping more now? I haven't changed my diet in over a year, pretty much. So I stopped the borax and it took a couple of weeks and then it went away completely. So I think I can rule out the oxalate issue. So I'm very sorry, but I don't have a story to tell you about oxalates. So I think
That's
that was just where my head went to, because that's what it looked like to me. But now I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
okay. Yeah, that was a couple months ago. So I didn't know if you had like figured that out, because you had talked about like consuming some sweet potatoes because of the the
Yeah.
oxalate thing, but no, oxalate intolerance is actually a good thing to not have. So
Yes.
I'm curious though, borax, isn't that a cleaner?
Yeah, it is, but
And
it's,
you were consuming it for something?
yeah, I mean, it's
Oh,
natural. It's
okay.
not, it's one of those things that they like to tell you is poisonous, but it isn't. I mean, if you're taking huge doses, but we're talking about, I think I put a teaspoon in a liter of water, and then I started with a teaspoon of water per day, and I increased it eventually to, I think about 200 milliliters per day. But then someone said, hey, because it doesn't taste nice. It tastes a little bit salty, and it's, a bit alkaline it feels a bit slimy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And someone said, hey, I just put it in like a capsule and I eat it. So I started doing that, and I don't know how much that was. And I think it's just more concentrated. So it probably kills whatever it comes into contact with much quicker. And I think that's when things started changing. Like, I had small bumps, but they didn't itch or anything. But I think after I started doing that, that's when they started getting itchy and I got those symptoms.
Okay. That's
So
interesting because probably like a lot of years ago, I don't even remember, maybe even 20 years ago, but I used borax mixed with Selsun Blue as a face scrub because someone told me that it was good for like anti-aging and wrinkles and stuff.
interesting.
So that's all I know about borax, but I know it's like a gritty kind of soap. So
they
interesting. I didn't know that it could safely be consumed.
they use it for like candida overgrowth in
Yeah.
women too, like
Mhm.
suppositories for like
Yeah.
yeast infections and things too. It's like prescribed, they can prescribe it to you. So it's actually like it is safe, but it can be used as like they use it to kill rats. It's like rat poison too, but that's like in mega doses of concentration. So they have to like tread lightly when they're like consume this, So
Yeah. And obviously you can't put pills up in your nose. So that's why I was drinking it, because I think that would be very gritty.
yes. So we should probably put like a caveat, like don't
Yeah.
do
Don't do that.
that. You are associated with one of our favorite people on the internet and in the carnivore space. And you guys live a very interesting lifestyle, raising your own meat pretty much, right? So I think that would be really interesting to talk about what you guys do and what your approach is to like grass fed, grass finished, conventional beef. Like, what is your thoughts on that with the lifestyle that you and Bart live?
This is so funny. You're not the first one who think that. We don't raise any animals. We live rurally, and we're renting this property. Our landlord has a cow. And I think
Okay.
he took a picture of that calf and said, this is our calf Molly or something like that. And now everyone thinks that we have cows and that we're raising cows.
I
And we,
totally did. I'm so
yeah.
sorry. Okay, then what is your approach then?
Um, we are by like the thing here is that almost all meat is already grass fed. I think we're very lucky. I don't even know if there are any places in New Zealand which have beef cattle and they just, feeding them lots of grains, etc. Because in the beginning when I moved here, I just went to the butchers where we get our meat from, and I was like, "Is it grass fed? Is it grass fed?" They're like, "All our meat is grass fed." As if that was common knowledge. So I'm not even asking anymore because I think it always is. However, having said that, we did get some a year ago. They had the old calf that they sent to the butchers, so we actually got to have some of our landlord's meat, and they came over and just gave us a couple of like a bowl of steak and some mince, and it was really nice. And I think my dog was happy about that. She didn't get along with that bull. They were always shouting at each other. Well, he tried to attack her, and she was shouting at him. So she got the last word. But I mean, if we like we want exactly what you said, like it's so interesting you have that, and both of us want to have that. So it's like something we're working towards. We want to move out, have our own piece of land, raising some, livestock of all sorts of kinds. And I would absolutely try to do it 100% grass-fed, natural as far as we can. I mean, if an animal gets sick, yeah, I'm going to call a vet. But I wouldn't give them anything else, any supplements or anything that isn't absolutely necessary if I can avoid it. And I don't have super strong opinions, because I think like if all you can afford is non-grass fed, that's going to be so much better for you than anything that is processed. But why not, if you have the opportunity of doing it the old-fashioned way, if you like, why wouldn't you do that? I think that's your best guarantee to know that whatever you're eating is going to be clean and it's not going to affect you in a negative way now or later. Was that it?
Oh, I thought Devin froze.
Okay.
But then I thought you were trying to talk. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I think, you know what? I'm so torn on the grass fed or the grass finished things, because sometimes I feel like it doesn't taste good if it's not grain finished. Now, I know a lot comes into play as well, and like where the cows are and what they're eating. I wonder, do you ever, like the meat you're getting, does it ever taste fishy to you?
I don't think I've ever had meat that tastes fishy, but it's funny because yesterday I had some like pre-sliced rump steak, and I'm like, I don't like the taste of the fat. I don't like the taste of the meat. I don't know what's up with this, because usually I buy like whole rumps and I cut them up myself, but this is the same butcher. I'm assuming it comes from the same source, and it just didn't taste good to me. And I don't know why, because it's just pre-packed and it doesn't say on like this was grain finished or not. So I can't say that I've had that fishy taste, but sometimes I just come across a lot of beef that I don't like. And I don't know what the difference is. I wish I knew what the difference was, but I really don't.
Yeah, I know. At least for me, it can like be hit and miss on the flavor. And I feel like a lot of people prefer grain finished. I think, Devin, I think you usually eat grass finished, but I don't know. It's just wonky sometimes. I mean, I love the whole like regenerative farming side of things. But yeah, I'm not sure about this grass finished, even though I feel like that would be ideal. I feel like that's how they should eat. But do we force ourselves to eat something that we don't think tastes good? I don't know. What are your thoughts, Devin?
There's only one place that I'll eat non-grass finished beef from. It's like a grocery store chain over here on the East Coast. And it is the only store that we will eat conventionally raised beef from. Otherwise, I have to have grass finished beef.
Okay, you started cutting out again. Oh my goodness. Okay.
This
Well, let's just start wrapping up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can. So Devin, I didn't know if there was something else specific you wanted to ask, or I was gonna let Pim like just share like if there's anything that you're like passionate about right now, this topic that you want to share, if there's anything that you feel like the people need to know.
Yeah, I mean, something that I forgot to mention is like just a little tip if you want to try to sit with your cravings or whatever emotions that you have, is often that we are trying to think about like, oh, how long is this gonna take? Like notice when thoughts like that are coming up, because that is a sign of resistance. Like you don't want to do it and you're impatient, and that's never gonna work. It's not gonna go away as long as you're thinking that. So just try to embrace those emotions. And the only purpose of you doing it is to feel it. There's no other purpose. When you can let go of that purpose and just like, this is all it is, that's when you're gonna have success. I just wanted to add that because that's super important. That's probably what most people do wrong, if we want to say wrong, when they're trying to do this.
Okay, awesome. Devin, do you have anything else, or you want to do the questions and where we can?
No, I would love to know where. Can you tell everyone you accept clients, where they can find you, what you're working on? Then that way they can hunt you if they want you.
Yeah, so the easiest way to find me is probably just going to my YouTube channel, Pim Johnson. You look for my name and you will find it. Otherwise, you can find me in my Facebook group, which I have renamed. But if you go to groups or you go to the YouTube, you will find a little button up in the corner where you can just join the Facebook group. It will take you straight there. And we do a lot of fun things in there. We are having like Zoom hangouts where there's like no pressure. It's just for the community part, etc. And I'm regularly doing trainings and challenges and all of that sort of thing. So if you're in the group, you will know about all of that. If you want to work with me, the easiest thing is probably just send me an email at pim@pimjohnson.com. It's probably easiest to remember.
And I did want to ask you, because Annabelle mentioned you guys are working on this new thing, and I don't really know much about it. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is like Annabelle and Scott, the Carnivore Lion, they reached out to me and they were like, "Oh, we think you would be perfect for this project." And I'm like, "I don't even know what you're talking about." And because they said, "Oh, this is going to be this limbic training community." And I'm like, I don't even know. I mean, to me, that's just words. And it took me several weeks to kind of understand what they were talking about. But the thing that I'm doing with my clients is like we are rewiring the brain to stop craving. So when we like go a different way, when we have cravings, eventually we're not going to have cravings anymore because they never lead to what the brain wanted anyway. So we're just like changing the brain with neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is just the brain's capacity to change and adapt to your environment. And limbic training that could be part of limbic training, but what especially Scott is mostly interested in is changing the constant fight or flight response. When you're stuck in a fight or flight response, it's usually because you have had some trauma, like you had an infection, or there has been a lot of stress in your life, or something that has put you in that fight or flight mode, and then you got stuck there because we have so many stressors. And when you're stuck there, you are going to have an overreactive immune system. You're going to probably have a leaky gut. There are lots of things that cannot heal as long as you're stuck. So he wanted to start this community of like a healing community, like for the gut-brain connection is what we're now calling it, because limbic system training is just probably, if it's just words to me, it's probably words to a lot of people. So all it is we do different classes. Right now it's 5 classes a week, and you can join for free in March if you want to join. So me and Annabelle, we're doing a lot of, the awareness training, working on habits and how to learn to think differently to change your response. So for example, we might be working with affirmations or just positive thinking, changing negative thinking loops, etc. And then Scott and we have a girl called Teresa. They are doing more of the limbic training stuff, which will address the subconscious mind when it comes to unlocking that and resetting the fight or flight response to allow people to heal. And it's not necessarily a carnivore community. We have a lot of carnivores in there because the way that the 3 of us are eating, but it's literally for anyone who feels like they cannot get the results that they want with diet when they're still stuck somewhere and they've been doing carnivore for a year and maybe they had some success but they're not had the success that they wanted. Then where do we go from there? Then you probably want to do some limbic training is my guess. So that's what we're doing, and we have 270 people signed up now, and it's so much fun and people are really appreciative and really positive. So I think it's going to be a really great community, and I'm so happy that they asked me to join, because first I was like, that sounds like fun, but what am I doing? But now I'm like, I'm sold, because I can see that people are already posting like, yeah, I've actually had this happening now. My weight has started coming off and I've been doing the same thing. I haven't changed anything other than doing this. And now I've lost this much weight in the last week. I'm not, oh, okay, this seems to be working. It's magic. So yeah.
Awesome.
So that's
really cool.
Yeah, limbic-training.com. If you go there, you can sign up for free in March, and we will just send you an email. You get the link, you can join the classes, etc.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Devin, want to do the fun questions?
Yes, hopefully my internet bears with us. So number 1, what is your favorite curse word?
Well, it has to be fuck. I'm sorry. It's not much more imaginative than that. And it's funny because I'm Swedish and I never used to swear in Swedish. And then I moved to the UK and it was fuck this, fuck that, fuck everything. Like I just added it because I've been watching so much American TV that it was just the prefix to everything. And people were just like, Pim, that doesn't sound good. I was like, sorry.
Yeah, it
We've
just
only had
spills out of mine too.
and we've only had like 2 people who haven't said that that's their favorite word. So you're in the majority
Excellent.
company. And then number 2, what was your favorite unhealthy food before going carnivore? Keto.
Okay, so I love ice cream, but I have some sort of weird thing for deep fried donuts. And I think it comes from a memory I have from being quite young. We were on holiday in Spain, and I think they had these, I don't even know what the name for them is, but deep fried custard donuts, and they just taste so amazing. And we have something, I don't know if you have it in America. You probably do because you have everything. It's called Hell's Pizza, and they have deep fried donuts that they make. And there's one with, I think it's white chocolate and toffee or something, and they're just gorgeous. And you can feel how they almost like clogging your arteries when you're eating them. It just feels really like sickening, and still I just love that taste. So I'm gonna say that for now. I didn't have them often, but they were horrible. Everything that's wrong with the world, like the deep fried oxidized fat and sugar, can't get worse.
Yummy.
But it sounds so good. And then number 3, what are you currently reading or watching?
Oh, what am I reading? I'm actually just reading a book about limbic training, so it's probably not going to be very interesting. But we're watching on Netflix. We're watching the series You. You've seen that one? Very
I'm a few
interesting.
seasons behind, but we watched the first. It's so weirdly creepy good.
Yeah, you're like, no, don't do it. I think I'm on the last season now, and it's starting to get a little bit strange, but we'll see.
I heard that. I heard it kind of started going off just a little odd. I don't know exactly what, but
Yeah,
just like people are starting to maybe lose interest. So
yeah.
interesting.
Unfortunately, I think the first 2 or even 3 were much better than the 4th so far, but we'll see. We'll see when I finish it.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you chatting with us. This has been
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
We will see you guys soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.